Is it possible to be a Hegelian today? Zizek answers, yes, it is still possible to be a Hegelian today. Many people think Hegel is outdated. They believe that later thinkers like Schopenhauer, Kierkegaard, and Marx broke completely from his ideas. After such a major break, it usually seems fake to go back to an old way of thinking. However, Zizek says this historical break was a mistake. Later critics created a false image of Hegel. They made him look like a foolish idealist who thought he knew nothing. They ignored his most important and radical ideas. Therefore, going back to Hegel today does not mean ignoring modern philosophy, it means recovering the insights that his critics missed. To explain his point, Zizek looks at a book by Gerard Lebrun. This book uses the ideas of Nietzsche to argue against Hegel. Lebrun admits that Hegel's system is very strong. It is not easy for critics to disapprove. For example, one common Marxist critique says Hegel's system is just a product of his own time. This seems to contradict his own idea that everything is always changing. But Lebrun dismisses this critique as a shallow misunderstanding. Instead, he uses a Nietzschean method called historical philology. This method looks for the non-rational practical choices that are hidden under Hegel's logical system. From this Nietzschean viewpoint, Hegel looks like a strange kind of nihilist or an atheist Christian. His philosophy is seen as a story of continuous defeat. It shows a withdrawal from the real vitality of life. For example, consider the French Revolution. During this time, the state terror crushed the private desires of individual citizens. Hegel argued that the subject should not fight this external terror. Instead, the subject must internalize it. The person must fully identify with the force that threatens to destroy them. This turns external terror into internal autonomous morality. The Nietzscheans see this move as a cheap psychological trick. They think Hegel turns a real painful defeat into a fake spiritual victory. In this view, Hegel's concept of absolute negativity means that finite things only find their truth when they destroy themselves. In the famous story of the master and the servant experiences a terrifying fear of death. This fear melts his identity and forces him to accept that his particular self is worthless. But instead of finding a higher spiritual self, the servant simply shifts his perspective. He identifies with the negative power of death itself. Zizek rejects this Nietzschean reading. He uses it to redefine Hegel's view of history, struggle, and ideology. Hegel's dialectics is completely opposed to mobilism. Mobilism is the popular belief that everything flows from a chaotic origin and is eventually swallowed back into it. Zizek notes that many Marxists mistakenly view Hegel as the philosopher of eternal struggle. They see history as the constant fight between the old and the new. But for Hegel, simply taking a side in a conflict is an illusion. Even in the case of violent war, Hegel is not interested in the fight. He is interested in how the warring parties are reconciled through their mutual destruction. War forces individuals to look past their shallow everyday interests. It makes them acknowledge death as the ultimate master. It reminds them of the true instability of their lives. The core Hegelian lesson is that internal self-contradiction is far more important than external obstacles. Humans do not fail because they hit external walls. Instead, they hit external walls because they are inherently flawed and inconsistent inside. A fighting subject invents an external enemy simply to create a false illusion of their own internal unity. They do this to feel whole and unified. Zizek defines this as the ultimate structure of ideology. Ideology means mistaking an internal flaw for an external obstacle. A prime example of this is fascist anti Semitism. Fascists claim the Jew is a foreign intruder ruining social harmony. They use this figure to hide the fact that society is naturally split by its own internal economic and class conflicts. Zizek concludes that being a Hegelian today is fully possible. Hegel does not offer an optimistic system where everything is magically fixed. Instead, his philosophy shows us something important. What we perceive as an external obstacle stopping us from reaching our goals is actually a reflection of our own internal limitations. By shifting our perspective to accept this internal negativity, we find the true meaning of freedom. This is not about giving up, it is about understanding that the real barrier is inside us, not outside. Once we accept this, we can truly be free.